Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back. Let's party.
Holy crap! Why are we partying? Because Nebraska beat Michigan State. Nebraska beat Michigan State, and it was that was a good game.
It's been a rough year for Nebraska fans, so take what we can get.
Even though we've done some bitching, we've been upset. A lot of games, a lot of the calls. We're still Husker fans, die hard. We always say "Go Bigger" at the end of every show. We never bet against the Huskers. Now, were there doubts going into last night's game? Absolutely. You're playing Connor Cook, who's a good quarterback, and we have the worst pass defense. I thought they were going to throw for 500 yards on us.
I thought so too. Something that was interesting was the line opened at 4.5 for that game, which I thought Michigan State was favored by 4.5. Yeah. They're an undefeated top 10 team. We're 3-6.
Yeah.
It went up to 6.5, 7 maybe, but by the time the game started, I think it was at 4.
It was back down to 4.
It was 4.5, something like that. Those guys in Vegas obviously know what they're doing.
Well, the thing was, someone put a lot of money on Nebraska, which sways everyone's opinion.
I mean, yeah, but
still, that was huge.
It was crazy, man. So, I didn't think it was gonna.
Some things I took away from last night's game for Nebraska. For one, Mike Riley has 14 years of coaching. He has 14 wins against top 10 teams. We still got one more to go. We got Iowa. Hopefully
they should be undefeated. I think that they will be.
So
that'd be fun, Jason.
So Mike Riley. I mean, do you give the credit to the players? Absolutely. And our coaches did good. Offensive play calling, for the most part, was pretty good. The thing I can't stand is the sweep passes to the left and the right.
A 30-yard screen.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that gets me.
Yeah.
He throws all the way to the far side of the field on a screen, and it's like a 30-yard pass.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But other than that, I mean, really, we had some good runs. Amani Cross had a
He was awesome. Amani Cross rushed for 100 yards.
Janovich ran the ball well.
Yeah, and I thought that we gave Janovich the ball at good times.
Yeah, and
the runs that he had were at good times.
He was blocking people, knocked some people on their ass.
Yep.
And he ran the ball well. And the one play that Langsdorf, you need to do more is when you roll Tommy out and have Janovich and Cross in front blocking with a guard. We scored a touchdown on that play.
Yeah.
Never seen him run that play this year. We need to do that more.
I did think that the play calling was a lot better last night. I haven't been able to... That was the first game I was able to watch the entire game. This is why we won.
You said it.
I did say that.
Yeah.
But it seemed like the play calling was pretty good. There was a couple times when I text you, Langsdorf came from the pros, and
yeah.
I feel like, a lot of times he calls pro style plays or whatever, but like 3rd and 3, Nebraska football, pound it, and we don't. But last night I thought we had good play calling, and
yep.
It was fun, man.
Well, inside the 10, we threw a pass to the right, straight right, a lateral over to Jordy Westerkamp, and he got stopped right there.
Okay.
Second down. That's when he threw the interception in the end zone.
Oh, that was horrible.
And even he was saying, I need to throw it up and get it back to the goalpost. But that's an NFL play.
Yeah, I agree.
We don't have guys that are going to be jumping that high to get the ball. Maybe, but at the same time, I mean...
After that, man, I was like...
That was a bummer.
Oh, man.
Down by 11 points, both of us.
Yeah.
We thought it was over. There's 4-some minutes left, and at that point, most teams are going to think we're down by 11. We're not. We haven't been a comeback team all year. Your hopes go down. But then we came out, we scored a touchdown.
Go for 2 and didn't get it.
Go for 2, and then we get the ball back because we had 2 timeouts left. So we still had 2 timeouts. We get the ball back, and we get the ball back in 55 seconds.
At the 9-yard line? 7-yard line? 9-yard line?
Something like that. And Tommy, he threw the hell out of his arm there. I mean, great play. Last play of the game, everyone says, oh, controversial. But Michigan State, D'Antonio, he was like, no, it is what it is. That's not what lost us the game.
My dad is replay official on that. He stands on the sidelines with a Big Ten vest and with a headset, and they buzz him and say, we're going to review, and he goes out there and gives it to the official. He's just kind of a middleman, but he gets to be on the sidelines, and he's on Michigan State's, he's on the visitor sidelines at the home games. And He said they weren't so much upset with Michigan State was not so much upset with
The game-winning TD.
the game-winning TD, which I know a lot of people are upset with, saying that he was not forced out of bounds. He was not pushed out of bounds, but he was forced out of bounds.
Well,
he was in
here's the thing.
his way.
There was contact.
Yes.
Maybe not a lot of contact, but there was contact.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the rules as far
Yeah, I
as what you
don't-
can and can't review on that, because you can review whether or not he was out of bounds and just ran out of bounds. But there was nothing to say that he was not forced.
What my dad said is, just like in a penalty, you can't really like review
Penalties.
that, you know. But they weren't reviewing whether he was pushed out or forced out or whatever.
Yeah.
It was whether he had completely reestablished himself back in bounds. And
See, I wish they would have better explained that on TV.
They don't, because they don't. I don't
It would have
know.
been nice, because I was thinking you can't. I don't even think that's a reviewable play.
Yeah, we were saying that too when we were watching the game. Like, can they even review whether or
Yeah.
not that, you know?
But either way, hell of a catch by Riley, hell of a throw by Tommy, and that was a great way for Nebraska to win.
Man.
And then.
No, but anyway,
go
what I was
ahead,
going to
sorry,
say
go ahead.
was they weren't so much upset with that play, with that or whatever. They were upset because they thought they had 1 second left on the clock.
The problem with that is Connor Cook took forever to throw the ball out of bounds. He clearly
He
had
went to throw it and he got bumped and kind of held back onto it and then threw it probably too high, in my opinion. I know he was trying to get rid of it, but there was somebody on the sidelines too that like looked like they like jumped up for it, and I'm like, don't touch that ball.
touch the ball. So even with 1 second, they would have had to go Hail Mary,
I mean,
which we don't want that.
I wouldn't have wanted that, but that was awesome.
So we score, we go up by 1, we miss the 2-point conversion, and then we pooch kick it, and they get the ball at the 40-yard line. I almost dropped to the floor.
I know.
wanted to kill somebody.
I thought that it was going to happen again.
I thought we were going to lose because of that pooch. But
I think they had the right idea. They just didn't execute
They
it the
didn't
way
kick
that
it far
they wanted
enough.
it. They didn't. I don't think they kicked it. They kicked it too low.
And they kicked it to a guy.
Either kick it real low or kick it a little bit higher. They kicked it straight on to the point where the guy could catch it mid stride. Regardless.
But, hey, our defense, shout out to the D. That's the best game
Shout
that
out
we've
to the
had.
secondary. Even when they did catch, they caught some balls that I don't know how they caught, but
They were tackling
was
right
great.
away. They
Yeah, the
didn't
coverage was
catch
great.
it and run for a touchdown. I mean, they caught the ball and we tackled.
I was a little nervous because second play of the game they had a run for 30 yards, and they did the same play again later, and it went for another 30 yards, and I was like,
But our rush defense stood up. They started playing really well.
we didn't get a lot of pressure, but the secondary played really well.
But at the end of the day, we didn't allow any sacks. No sacks on Tommy. So our offensive line played well. And I was arguing with Pooty, I know you're watching, but Pooty said that our offensive line is not good enough to run the ball inside the 10-yard line because Michigan State kept stopping us. But at the same time, you put in Janovich and Cross, you got a blocker out in front of you. Cross can bump, he can run right through people. So you got to give him a shot when you're inside the 10. And I understand their rush defense is pretty good. But their pass defense, Michigan State, if you want to beat Michigan State, throw the ball.
Yeah.
They got that number 39, a freshman, that we picked on a couple times, and he had a couple pass interference penalties, and that helped us. But even in the last drive, we had guys that were wide open.
Yeah, well, and they said that, or I guess when going back to that last Brandon Riley catch for the touchdown, and actually, I don't know if you know this, but Brandon Riley is the brother of one of my friends.
Brandon Riley's a stud.
He's from Lincoln. Anyway, Austin Riley is his name. But I played hockey with him. Anyway, that even if it wasn't, he came back and play or whatever, that they'd probably call pass interference. There's pass interference going on all kinds.
Well, and so Michigan State's bitching and complaining. Their fans are bitching and complaining, and the team is not. The coach is not.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Huskers, they thought it was going to get called back. According to Mike Riley.
They said Brandon Riley not only said he was scared that it was going to get called
heart
back,
stopped, yeah.
And Riley was like, we were kind of planning on,
going for another long shot. But there were mistakes on both sides of the ball for both teams. Mistakes. The refs missed some calls. They missed some PI calls. They missed some holding calls. They missed some. I mean, they missed calls. I mean, refs, they're human, and they did a good job in that game. But one of the most electrifying plays that could have been was not called pass interference, and that was the touchdown pass to Alonzo Moore when his arm was being held.
When he got hurt.
Yeah, and he got hurt. And that was,
his shoulder was already hurt.
Clearly his left arm was being held, and the refs didn't call that. So you can say all you want about the controversial call, but let's take a look at the entire game as a whole, which is why I love D'Antonio, because he's looked at the whole
great
game.
coach, and he's not making any excuses.
He said we didn't execute as much as we needed to,
Yep.
and we didn't play our best game. But give props to Nebraska because they played a heck of a game tonight and they beat us.
He knew it was going to be a tough game. He came out and said, you know, they weren't looking ahead to anybody yet. Nebraska had won 16 straight home night games. Now it's at 17. God, that was
intense.
That was awesome.
Now the Huskers beat Rutgers next weekend at Rutgers. They will beat them, and then we're gonna beat Iowa. We're gonna beat Iowa at home. Another top 10 ranked team. We're gonna beat them. They're gonna be undefeated, and we're gonna go to a bowl game.
That game might take a couple years off my life because I can imagine it being pretty damn close.
It's gonna be a good game. I'm excited. Husker fans are super excited. I mean, Facebook was blowing up last night. Twitter blew up. We had a lot of recruits there at the game.
I was gonna say that was huge. We did have some recruits,
game.
and
we even have Steve Spurrier there. That's his first trip to Nebraska watching the game. And that, don't get excited. We're not getting Steve Spurrier as a coach, and I like the guy, but he's not coaching anymore in college. But
I text the picture to a bunch of people. I should have sent it to you too, but I sent it to my mom, and she texted me back, I hate him, or something like that. And my favorite thing in the world, I keep it saved in my phone, is highlights of that 95 national championship, and you just see Spurrier on the sidelines with his little, like, chicken. Oh, man, it's beautiful. But, no, in all seriousness, that was cool that he was there. I know he wanted to, he's friends with Ike Horst. He wanted to experience something that he, never had, and that was perfect game for him to be at.
Yeah.
Great for the recruits that we had there. Awesome to see, like, all of them blowing up on Twitter.
Yeah.
Send out pictures and videos of being at the game.
And it was awesome to see the sportsmanship. I mean, between both teams, it
always is. With Michigan State, that's like been probably one of our best rivals since we joined the Big Ten. If you look at the scores,
the big games we've had.
I mean, Nebraska won with 8 seconds left a couple of years back. Last year we had a shot to win. 2 years ago we even lost by 7. I mean, every game has been really close. And
Amani Cross has always run good against Michigan State. And
I don't know what it is, man, but we've just always matched up really well against Michigan State.
And it's not because
in 2011 they won the Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, they beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship. They came to Lincoln that year. They had Kirk Cousins. They were ranked in the top 10, and we beat them like 24. It was 24-3. I think they got a late touchdown. It was like 24-10.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it is, but
Connor Cook, at the beginning of the season, I said in our first video that I thought he was overrated. He struggled at the beginning of the season, and he struggled at the beginning of the game yesterday. He was missing targets. He was overthrowing, underthrowing. His targets were missing the ball. When you talk about execution, that killed Michigan State in that first quarter. We were up 10-0 in the first quarter.
They had a lot of drops. He was throwing the ball pretty well, I thought.
Well, first quarter, he overthrew like the first two guys.
Yeah, he had a couple.
But after that, man, 3rd and 4th down, he was stellar. And once again, our defense was on the ball, just they were catching it. And so they stepped up, and props to him. He had a great game.
He, on 3rd down in the 4th quarter, on 3rd and 8 or longer, he was like 9 of 10. It was clutch.
Damn you, D'Antonio, for going on 4th down. I hate it. That pisses me off, but you got.
Well, and that's always the great debate. Like, I always like to have them punt. Everybody's always like, no, let them go for it, and let's stop them.
4th and 1, I get it. But 4th and 3, come on. I go for it and get it. But anyways, Huskers,
that was a
great win.
No, it was awesome.
That was fun. I was super excited, as was the rest of Nebraska, if they're Nebraska fans. And
it was a party.
Big win. It was a party. So let's talk about some of the other games that went on yesterday. There was a lot of excitement going on, a lot of crazy games. So let's take a look at we'll look at what were the top 10 in the first college football playoff poll, because that's all that matters now. So Clemson had a big win over Florida State. Now,
that was a great game.
I think I texted you yesterday after the game. I watched the entire game, and that was probably one of the games I've seen more heart played in that game by both sides of the ball throughout the entire game. And it was, 17 to...
It was 13
23-13.
It was 13-13 up until the last maybe 4 or 5 minutes of the game.
And they got a field goal to go up 16-13. They get the ball back. They get another touchdown. So
they went for it on 4th and got a touchdown, I think.
Yeah. And, seriously, both teams, heck of a game. McGuire was still playing quarterback for Florida State. He had a really good game.
He struggled a little bit to start. They came out firing. They scored Cook had a 74-yard touchdown on the second play of the game. I actually did get to watch a lot of this game.
Well,
Cook
Cook
to
had a
me,
good game.
it should be a Heisman contender.
I think he will.
What sucks is that they have a couple losses and they're outside the top 15.
Yeah.
But with how it's going this year, I don't. And with seeing how Fournette did yesterday, he was and
Still up in the air.
Boykin, they lost too. I don't know who they'll take to New York for that.
But
But-
Clemson wins, big win over Florida State. Really good game. I enjoyed watching it at Clemson.
I
Both
watched
teams just
quite a
played
bit
their
of
hearts
it.
out.
It
It's
was
fun.
kind of cool to see because Florida State had won the last 3 matchups, last 3 games. So I mean, a lot of those
Yep.
players, they don't know how to beat Florida State.
No,
They haven't
well,
been
and,
able to.
and McGuire, that's a big game for him going away. His first
It was
start.
his first road start.
And that was tough for him, but you know they played a good game. Clemson just played a little better, and you know
A lot of
once
good-
again, Dabo Swinney. I said it last week. I like watching him on the sideline because he's got
He
so
is
much energy.
fantastic, man.
I
Did
think-
you see him run out of the? Did you see him run out of the field?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
I think about 10 times during the game, all I saw from him was. and
End of the first half?
Deshaun Watson, end of the first half,
End of the first half,
third
dude.
and 3, spikes the ball to stop the clock.
Well,
But he thought it was second down.
Well,
so they got points.
they got 3 points. That could have been a big part, big factor in the game.
But that was hilarious.
With how, like you said, like excited and like agile and all over the place that Dabo Swinney is on the sidelines, he's doing all this stuff and
He's nuts.
I mean, as the quarterback looking over to the bench, you're like, okay, I need to spike the ball. Okay,
Yeah, but-
spike the ball.
But he's not looking at Sweeney. He's looking at the offense.
I know,
coordinator. But Sweeney, I love his energy on the sideline. He's a fun
That's
coach
funny,
to watch.
man.
And then he always dances in the
He
locker room. after
ran
the wins,
onto
and
the field down the hill. I thought he was gonna like
Just
roll
visit.
down the hill because it was raining and stuff
Oh, yeah.
down there. but
I've never seen him run so fast.
he
down that
was
hill.
running like 40 miles an hour down that hill. It's hilarious.
As all the
that
other
was-
players
that
were
was
like
good
hopping
stuff.
down the field. He's just.
Yeah, that was
That was fun. So good job, Clemson. Great game, Florida State. I'm not a fan of you anyway, so I'm glad you lost. But
I
it was a good
know. I
game.
text you and I said, and I guess you text me back. No.
Yes.
I said I almost wish Florida State would have won just to kind of shake up, blow this thing up, and see,
and that just pissed me off.
But I
They didn't win.
didn't necessarily want that. I was just saying it would be kind of cool to see what would have happened.
Number 2, LSU played Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Here's the thing with this game. So, Bama wins. Bama played well. LSU did not. LSU has relied on Fournette every game of this year.
19
Every
carries for 31
single
yards.
game.
He's had over 150 yards a game. He had 19 carries for 31 yards.
So,
Second half.
they're going up against the best rush defense in the country.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about that last week, and I thought it'd be a struggle for him, but I still thought LSU would win a close
I didn't
game.
think it was going to be as much as.
Hey, you got to give props to Alabama. I still think Alabama is overranked and overrated because you look at who they lost to. Ole Miss. Ole Miss is now 7-3 or 6-3. They have 3 losses. They're going to be out of the top 25 for sure. They are in the AP, but in the playoff poll they should be. They beat Texas A&M. Whoop-de frickin' do. They got 3 losses too. They're going to be out of the top 25.
Yeah. And I just
So
noticed.
who are their big games that
Well,
they won?
And I just noticed that on some of these things that we wrote down here, we don't have LSU on there.
About what? Oh yeah.
So we'll have to make some changes in there. You think they're gonna drop
I
that
don't know.
far out?
Oh, we'll talk about it.
All right.
Okay, so Alabama wins. Ohio State beat Minnesota, and I picked an upset there. I was.
I thought you were
hoping-
crazy. I thought they were gonna blow them out of the
But it was
water.
only 28-14.
They did not blow them. out of the
Cordell
water.
Jones did not have a good game.
At one point in time, it was like in the second half.
Ezekiel Elliott did not have a good game.
Yeah, I don't.
Their defense won that game. Their first touchdown was a pick 6.
Yeah, they'll still be in the top 4, I think, but they're dropping Florida State fast. Like
I just don't think.
last year.
I just don't think Ohio State has what it takes to beat both Michigan and Michigan State. I think they're going to lose both of those games. At least one of them, but I would not be surprised if they drop both. And I really hope they do.
I don't know.
But we'll see. Big Ten is shifty now. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen.
That's true.
So Ohio State, they had a win over Minnesota by 14. Not a huge win, but it was a win again. Once again, they're still undefeated. Alabama, we just talked about them beating LSU. It was a good game for them. They won. Notre Dame beat Pitt. They beat them 42-30. That really didn't tell the story of the game.
No, it was not that close.
It was like 42.
Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It was like Yeah, it was like 42-17 or something. I don't know exactly, but because I was at work. But
oh yeah, running back.
Well, I will say, yeah. Before we go on to that, Adams was awesome.
Prosise got hurt out,
and this Adams freshman comes in and he tore it up.
He tore it up.
But Notre Dame was up big. They brought in a backup quarterback to get him some experience.
Yeah.
Fumbled. Pittsburgh took back for a touchdown. Then they scored again or whatever. So 42-30 was not quite.
But once again,
we
talked about last week about Kaiser. Kaiser's carrying this team. He's a hell of a good quarterback.
Fuller's good. He's
got Fuller as his wide receiver.
You could almost say Fuller could be up there for the Heisman.
I think you put him up there personally. He's
awesome.
He's definitely the best wide receiver in college football right now. Yeah. I don't know how anyone could debate that. Yeah. He's definitely the best wide receiver. I think depending on what Notre Dame does the rest of the next few games here, I think Fuller goes to New York. I think he deserves it.
Depending on how many guys they end up taking, I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah. So Notre Dame beats Pitt. Baylor beat K-State on Thursday night, but they barely beat them. They beat them by a touchdown, and K-State had a chance.
They were out by 2 touchdowns, and K-State scored late, and K-State did have a chance.
And then they threw an interception. But K-State lost 4 games in a row. There's no reason why Baylor should even come close to losing that game. But here's the deal. K-State's defense is not that bad. You got a high-powered offense who's used to playing teams with no defense and just wiping them out. K-State's not that bad of a defensive team.
That game was at K-State, I believe, on Thursday night. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's kind of a different type of atmosphere than a normal week.
Yep.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Kansas State has been one to knock Baylor off the undefeateds over the last couple of years, at least once.
They're known to get in some good games.
Just like we were talking about how Nebraska's always matched up really well with Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like K-State maybe matches up pretty well with Baylor. I'm not trying to have Baylor's back by any means, but I think that was kind of a tough game for them, and they still came away with the win. So I don't know. Everybody's got a tough game throughout the season. That was one for them.
I personally think that win does not help them.
I don't think it does either. I don't think it does either.
But we know what their schedule is moving forward, and we'll talk about that in a second. So Michigan State obviously loses to Nebraska. Child Huskers. TCU. All right, so TCU gets they got wiped up by Oklahoma State.
I wonder who picked that.
They got drilled, and you picked it because you wanted them to win. You didn't think they were going to win.
I really didn't think that. Anyways, not by 20 points.
So TCU loses to Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State unranked or undefeated, and we talked about this last week. Undefeated,
ranked number 14,
but not getting any love.
No.
Now it's because they're in the Big 12. Big 12 is going to beat up on each other, but Oklahoma State.
They hadn't won big all season. I mean,
and their schedule hasn't been that tough. But now you got the Big 12 matchups. You got the Big 12 matchups to get to the end of the season.
I mean,
this is going to be a true story for Oklahoma State to see what they're made of because they're going to have to play some tough games here, and one of their tough games is going to be Oklahoma.
I think that'll be a fantastic game. I think.
I think they still play Baylor, so
it'll be interesting to see what the committee does with them. How far they move them up. They were at number 14.
4 interceptions by Boykin.
Ooh,
but here's once again, same thing with K-State. Oklahoma State has an offense and a defense. TCU's defense is not that good.
Yeah, that's the story of the Big 12.
That's
actually because it was like right off the bat, it was like 20-7 in like the first quarter, or 21-7, something like that. And the announcers for the game were like, "This is just like." We're just touching warm-ups right now.
Yeah.
This game, I mean, with how much these teams have scored, this game is gonna be like 68-63 or something. Yeah. With how I don't know.
They were up 42-13 at one point.
42-13 or 42-16, something like that. Yeah,
eventually it probably turned to 16, but 42-13, and
you're probably right.
And I'm just like 29 point. This is huge against a TCU team with Boykin, who was probably the second in the running for the Heisman.
A TCU team that everybody thought was ranked a little bit farther down than people thought. People thought they probably were going to be ranked a little higher.
But high-powered offense. Once again, the defense is not that stellar when you're going up against an offense who is that good, which is why TCU is going to be a shootout again.
Yeah, and Oklahoma State being at home in that game was one of the reasons why I picked them. I don't know what they do with the Oklahoma State matchup. I'm not sure where they play that at,
I don't know.
or if they just bounce back and forth.
Oklahoma State's they're coming out shooting. They want to. Gundy, he's got a mission, and his mission is to get to the playoff. And they have a shot now with that win over TCU. They're going to jump in. I think they're going to jump in as high as maybe 5 or 6.
I hope so.
In the playoff.
I mean, that'd be cool.
They have a
That'd be
chance.
beautiful.
Sorry, Pootie. They have a chance to jump Notre Dame. They do. They jumped them in the AP.
I know he's going to be mad with you saying that because he's going to say, who else have they played? And here's the list of Notre Dame
I'm just
games.
stating facts that they could jump them. I'm not saying I necessarily agree that they should, but I'm saying they could.
I don't know that they're going to do it. I don't know that they're going to jump them now, but there's potential there of them doing it later on.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be exciting. The next 3-4 weeks is going to be incredible. Iowa wins again. The line was 7 on that.
They won by 8.
They won by 8. I won Brett some money. He's in Vegas, and I told him to bet on Iowa because I said they win by probably 10. He put money on. He won. You're welcome. But Iowa wins. They're still undefeated. Not a huge win against Indiana.
It was on the road. Indiana's played pretty. I know that their record might not show it. I don't know. I'm not sure what their record is.
Didn't they almost beat Ohio State?
Yes.
So
they've
not a bad
played
team.
everybody. I mean, they've played pretty tough against everyone. So I don't know that was a great help to Iowa, but I don't think that. I mean, they still won the game. So
and here's the thing: Iowa's not an offensive team. They never have been. Their offense is not bad, but their defense, they really run the game. They really control the game. And, defense is going to win games for them. So. You might say Iowa being undefeated is not as good as a Notre Dame being a one-loss team to losing to Clemson. I'm not going to say I disagree with that or agree with it, but what I'm saying is they are undefeated.
Yeah.
And a win's a win. No matter how ugly it is, a win's a win, and they won. So congratulations, Iowa. You're doing well. I can't wait to see you at Memorial Stadium where we kick your butts. Florida wins 9-7 over Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, who beat Ole Miss.
I don't think they beat.
At Ole Miss. Or no, they struggled to beat. They lost Ole Miss, but Ole Miss struggled with Vandy.
Yeah, Vandy's played a couple tight games.
9-7.
It was 7-6 like the whole game.
And they have a kicker who hasn't kicked a ball. He hadn't kicked a ball all day. He was 3 for 7, I think, all season. And they had a freshman kicker kicking for them. And then they decide, screw the freshman. We need to win this game. We're going to rely on our junior kicker, who started the season, and he comes in and kicks a field goal, and they win the game 9-7. 9-7 for Florida, who's supposed to be this great team over Vandy. I don't see at Florida.
It was at Florida, yeah.
At Florida. That's 2 wins they've had at home that were not exactly standout wins. I think that game's going to hurt them big time, but they're still in the SEC championship game.
They are. They locked up their spot in the SEC championship game, so they. Man, that could really,
so it's not going to hurt them.
Really mess up.
It's not going to hurt them as bad as it should.
I didn't like that until I just thought of the fact that what if Florida goes in and wins that?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can put. I mean,
you can't discount that win if they do.
I mean,
they're probably going to play Alabama.
Their loss to LSU by 7 points was what I thought was keeping them in the top 10. Now that loss to LSU is not quite as good for them as they would like.
But they're still going to play Alabama in the SEC.
If Florida ends up losing the game, because do they play Florida State?
I don't know.
Is that the last week of the season they play Florida State?
We need. Well, I'll look it up.
No, because they're not in the same conference.
I don't know.
We'll have to do some digging on that.
Either way,
because if they lose a game and then win the SEC championship over most likely Alabama,
if they're a 2-loss team, I think they're out.
So
I don't think they deserve it.
Man, that'll be.
But it's the SEC. Who knows? So Florida barely wins on a late field goal. Shitty game. That was a terrible game. Ugly. Both teams sucked. Stanford wins.
They won big.
They won big. 42-10, I think.
I think it was 10-10 at one point, but.
And Stanford just ran away with it.
Yeah.
They did what they do. McCaffrey is still going to be.
No, it was not. It wasn't 10-10. I think it was like 10-3. But
McCaffrey's still going to be a Heisman candidate.
McCaffrey not only ran for a touchdown. I believe he threw for a touchdown.
He's leading in all-purpose yards for college football. He's leading in all-purpose yards. You also had your leading passer in Boykin threw 4 interceptions that killed him, and McCaffrey was like 3rd or 4th on the list. I think
Well,
McCaffrey's going to move up to number 1, but you got
I
to
don't
put in
know.
Fuller, and you're going to have Henry from Alabama.
You're going to have Henry from Alabama because he rushed for a lot of yards last night and 3 touchdowns.
And Dalvin Cook might be up there now because he had a hell of a good game for Florida State.
Deshaun Watson, I mean, Clemson's
Deshaun
number
Watson.
1.
There's a few guys out there. You might have 5 guys going this year, depending on how the next few weeks go.
There could be 5 guys going, and it could be like a toss-up.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there's some guys that are playing really well.
There's no one running
But
away with it right now.
There is no one running away with it. Fournette might have been.
It's going to be these big games coming up in the next few weeks that will really decide on who's the big dog, who's going to stand out for that Heisman race. It's
What
gonna be
needs
tough.
to happen for Fournette, I think, is Alabama needs to lose another game, and LSU needs to win out.
And he needs
And
to
he
have
needs to have
a
good
couple
games.
200 yard
Yeah,
games.
exactly.
He still has a chance. He's not out. He's definitely in the mix still because he's had a hell of a year. But all right, so Utah was up there at number 12 in the playoff poll, and they won. They didn't win.
They didn't win big, but
it was a good win for them. So Utah is still in the mix. They're still up there.
it was a late night road game, I think, for them, and so it was a decent
Yep.
win.
So a lot of things happening right now in college football. It was 3 of the top teams lost yesterday, and that was a lot of fun. I did not see TCU losing as big as they did. That was insane. I'm really shocked by that. But
The one interesting point I wanted to make was North Carolina. We talked
Yeah.
about North Carolina.
North Carolina, they're 8-1 in the
8-1.
ACC. What's
They were
gonna
not
happen?
ranked in the first college football playoff. They are 8-1. Unfortunately, their loss. Fortunately and unfortunately. Fortunately that it was the first week of the season. Unfortunately that it was the South Carolina team that's having a really bad season.
But you look at Ohio State last year; they lost
They
to
lost to Virginia Tech, who was
Virginia
a
Tech.
6-6 team.
first game of the season,
First
and
game of
that
the
did
season.
not end up hurting them. So I don't think UNC should be punished because they just kicked the crap out of Duke yesterday.
They won by
Scored
30 points.
69 points.
69.
It's like 69-31 or something. I mean, it was
66-33, something like
They
that.
killed them. That's a lot of
They
points.
are most likely going to wrap up their division in
Mhm.
the ACC, and
Yeah.
they are going to go in 11-1 and play an undefeated Clemson team.
Potentially undefeated. Clemson.
Potentially for both of them.
Yeah.
11-1, 12-0 in the ACC championship.
Well, I think they locked up the ACC championship game. Clemson did, but it doesn't mean they're going to be undefeated.
Oh yeah, they did. They're in the conference.
But are they going to be undefeated? Who knows? I think they are. Clemson, North Carolina. That could be a good game, or it's going to be really bad for North Carolina. But their quarterback's got a gun, man.
I mean, they're.
Did you see the double flea flicker? There?
Yeah.
Guys pulling
It's gonna
plays
be-
out of their ass.
It's gonna
It's exciting. It's fun.
I think that North Carolina. We were talking about it. I mean, they weren't ranked, but I mean, with 18, 19,
they jumped up in the
23,
AP.
all, like teams losing, they're like 17th in these other polls. They could jump up into like
They
top
they
16.
potentially could. You never know. I mean, it's going to depend on these next few weeks. We'll see what happens. But Ole Miss and A&M losing. We had just talked about this last week about Ole Miss and A&M. And the fact that we said
They were still up there.
How
They
in
should've
the hell
been.
are you in the top 20 is bullshit. And sure enough, they both lose.
And you'll have to post a video on the Pick Facebook page of this 4th and 25 overtime play.
Oh god, Arkansas roll. I mean Arkansas.
Oh my gosh, that was insane!
That was
Every
so lucky.
week we have something crazy like this.
I'm just gonna throw the ball way over my head and hope another guy
So,
gets it.
if you haven't seen it, look it up, or we'll post it. Ole Miss and Arkansas go to overtime. Arkansas's seasons,
They suck.
they're not having a great season, so they go to. It was that was a really good game. I was keeping up with it. It was
Oh,
a
yeah.
really good game. Go to overtime. Ole Miss gets the ball first, and they score, kick the extra point like you normally do. Well, Arkansas ends up with a 4th and 25 at the 40-yard line, and quarterback drops back, almost gets sacked. Maybe kind of runs around a little bit.
Short pass.
Throws a pass. Guy catches it and almost immediately is getting tackled. Just as he's getting tackled, just launches the ball up behind him. Almost gets caught by an Ole Miss guy. Ball hits the ground. Somebody picks it up. Runs 30 yards.
The running back picked it up.
For a first down.
He ran 33 yards and they get a first down. Then they score a touchdown and then they go for
two, and the quarterback gets sacked. But there's a flag, face mask.
Can't do that.
Go for
It's illegal.
2 again, and the quarterback just
Sneaks it.
barely gets over the goal
And he
line.
gets in, and
It was awesome.
I mean, that was insane.
awesome.
I'll post it because it was incredible.
It was awesome.
So good for Arkansas though. That's huge for Bielema. Bielema needed that win real bad. And Ole Miss, I'm so glad they lost.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so let's look at college football, the poll on what we think it's going to look like,
Okay.
and then we'll talk about the games next week. And we got 6 games on.
Unfortunately, the college football playoff rankings don't come out until Tuesday, which we'll do
be
our
back
quick
on
special
Tuesday.
on Tuesday. But so when we look at rankings or when we look at games for this next week, we're not, we don't know where they're going to have teams ranked, so it's a little bit more difficult for us to
We're just guessing.
pick our games. We tried to find the best games we could.
But here's what I think. This is my college football playoff poll. We both have the same top 4 teams.
Unfortunately,
I think Clemson's going to be number 1 still.
Clemson's going to be number 1.
No
There's
reason why
no
they
doubt
shouldn't.
that they will not be number 1.
Knowing how people suck on the teats of Alabama, Alabama's going to be number 2.
I think Alabama's
they
going to be
will.
number 2, but
I'm still not agreeing with it, but they will be. Ohio State's going to be number 3. They're not going to move. And
if anything, they might drop a spot, but
I
think they'll probably stay there.
Pooty, with all the shit I talk about Notre Dame's going to be number 4.
I also have Notre Dame at number 4.
I'd be shocked if they didn't put them there, but
there is potential of there's potential of LSU not falling out, which I think they will, but there's potential of that.
LSU might drop to 6, 7, but
I think they're only going to drop to 4, 5, maybe 6.
if Notre Dame drops in at number 4, which they could, I think Oklahoma State could jump all the way to number 5. They could.
I mean, I know I didn't.
It's a
pick
long
that,
shot, but they could. So this is how I wrap out mine. I got to throw
but
LSU
I'm
in
gonna
there.
slide these down.
Yeah.
And put LSU
So
right there.
I'm gonna put Oklahoma State at number 5. I'm putting LSU at number 6. Baylor at 7. Iowa at 8. Even though I don't agree with that, but I think that's what it's gonna be. I think Iowa should be above Baylor. And then I think you're gonna have Stanford, Florida, Utah, Oklahoma. Those are my picks. So I'm throwing LSU in at number 6.
You know what? I might have to make a couple adjustments.
So Jimmy had the same top 4. He had Clemson, Bama, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Then you're throwing LSU in.
I'm gonna throw LSU at number 5 because as we saw with how they ranked the first playoff committee rankings, they're loving on that SEC. They're not gonna drop them very
I mean,
far.
you got a 1-loss Bama,
I'll throw LSU in
who
at
their
5.
1 loss was to a 3-loss team. Who's
I'm gonna
Not
probably
that good.
actually switch these two.
okay? So you got LSU.
Then I think they are gonna come with Baylor. I just don't know they can jump Oklahoma State that far. I think Baylor will stay at 6. I do think Oklahoma State rolls up at 7 behind them. I was gonna have Stanford ahead of Iowa. I still think that could be a possibility,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Iowa rolls in at 8 with Stanford at 9, and unfortunately Florida at 10.
Yep. I mean, yeah.
Or
And
5,
then
6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
Then you got Utah and Oklahoma.
Utah, Oklahoma sitting. Oklahoma's got Baylor this week.
There's a lot.
They're
The
just
Big
sitting waiting to
12.
pounce.
The Big 12 is gonna really come down to a lot of games here in the last 4 games of the season because Oklahoma State's last play. They got a lot of good games coming up. Baylor's got good games. TCU's got good games.
Oklahoma's got good
TCU and
games.
Baylor still have to play each other. Oklahoma's not completely out of it. So Big 12.
Oklahoma State and Baylor still have to play each other.
The games are going to be insane for the Big 12. For Notre Dame, what do they have to do? They got to beat Stanford. They
have Boston College and Wake Forest that, I mean...
They should beat those teams, but Boston College is at Boston College.
It's at Fenway, I think.
Oh, shit.
I think. Yeah.
So Boston College is going to have a little bit of a home field advantage.
Boston College is not very good.
They suck,
They got-
but you never know.
They were shut out until the
Just
last
saying.
couple minutes of the game
Just
last
saying.
night.
Just saying.
I did notice that, okay, so, yeah, Notre Dame has Wake Forest and Boston College.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just kind of looking at teams' schedules and stuff yesterday, and I think it was Boston College, Wake Forest, their game this year.
Yeah.
3-0.
Woo!
3-0. I'm not even sure which team won. I think it was Boston College, but field goal was made with like 11 minutes left in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Like, what a terrible game to
But
be.
here's what we know. We know if Notre Dame wants to be in the playoff, they have to beat
They
Stanford.
had to beat Stanford. I mean, that's...
If they don't beat Stanford, Stanford has a really good shot of getting in. But the Pac-12 is shaking up, man. You got all these teams
to win
chances
to win the conference championship.
the Pac-12.
The Pac-12 conference championship.
To win it.
I think that there's really only 2 teams that have a shot at making the playoff, and that would be Stanford and Utah.
Yeah, and I still think that Stanford has the best shot with McCaffrey on their team. You know, yeah, we see what happened to Fournette, but McCaffrey's he's a dual threat. If he can throw, run, and catch, I mean, the dude's a stud. He's going to get it done. So I think Stanford's going to win out. I think they're going to beat Notre Dame, but I think it's going to be a good game.
That's going to be a crazy good game.
So-
Yeah, there's so many good games that are on paper anyway that are left that it's just ridiculous.
So once again, college football playoff will be coming out Tuesday night with a video. Let's look at our games for next week. We got Oklahoma going to Baylor.
That's the 7 o'clock ABC. I would imagine that's probably game day.
Yeah, who are you talking? Who are you talking? Who are you taking?
Oh man,
I'm going to take Oklahoma.
I
think Oklahoma offensively and defensively for sure is better than Baylor. But Baylor is high powered on offense. They didn't really show up much this last week, but
dang dude, I might have
got
to agree with
Oklahoma.
you, but just because it's at Baylor and I want to pick against you because it's fun. I'm gonna take Baylor,
Okay.
and I kind of want it to come down to like that Baylor and Oklahoma State game. I want both of them to be undefeated.
Okay.
So
All right. Then we have Memphis going to Houston. Now, Memphis just had their first loss this
Man.
season, which really sucks. I was really hoping they'd win, but they have an undefeated Houston team at Houston.
gosh,
I think that's going to be a great game. I mean, that's going to be a really good game. I'm going to take Houston, but I think it's going to be really close.
I'm gonna take Houston for 2 reasons. For one, they're at home. Maybe 3 reasons. One, they're at home. Tom Herman is their coach, and he is fantastic.
Yes.
And just 2 reasons. That's what I'm taking.
All right. Alabama at Mississippi State.
I don't think. I know it's at Mississippi State.
Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's having a good year. Now, I was watching Mississippi State, and Jesse Palmer, he's an idiot. He comes out saying that Dak Prescott could get himself into the Heisman running. Bullshit. He ain't getting in there. But I think Mississippi State beats Bama. I'm taking them. Taking Mississippi State. I'm going for a huge upset only because I hate Bama, and I just can't pick them to win a game.
You just answered my question. Put a J next to Michigan State.
All right,
Or
Michigan State, Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Go Mississippi State. Please, Dak Prescott, have the game of your life. Then we got NC State at Florida State. Now, people are saying, NC State, really? Against Florida State? Well,
NC State kept it pretty tight with Clemson.
NC State likes to play their ACC matchups really close.
Yeah.
And they've played Florida State tight. They've played Clemson tight. They've played all these ACC teams really tight over the years. I think that's going to be a really good game. Who are you taking?
Unfortunately, I'm going to take Florida State because Cook is he's awesome. I just think that
Dalvin Cook.
he's
He's good.
going to run away with it. But I know you're going to take NC State. That's one of the other reasons why
I just think it'd be
take them.
fun. That'd be a huge upset.
I will be cheering for NC State in this game, don't get me wrong.
Good to know.
But
Then we got Washington State going to UCLA. So another Pac-12. Washington State's had a pretty... the record may not show it, but they've played really well this year.
they
But on the road at UCLA is going to be tough. I got UCLA. UCLA has really played strong over the last few games.
Washington State's just one of those teams that, they could lose to anybody, but they could beat anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they played Stanford pretty well for a while.
They had a chance to beat Stanford.
Yeah.
I'll go with UCLA with you. I know I'll probably regret it because Washington State will win. I'll be like, dang it, I knew I should have taken them.
Yeah. Then the last game we got on our list is Oregon at Stanford. Stanford just, I don't see them losing. And Oregon's offense is not as good as it used to be. They're not as high powered. They're not as fast tempo. Their defense is not good. Stanford, I think, is going to run all over them, and they're going to win that game.
I'm taking Stanford. If that game was at Oregon, it might have a little bit more intrigue. But that's a big matchup right there. You got to throw it in there. It's
Pac-12.
yeah,
it's a fun
it's a
game.
rivalry type of game. I know Stanford probably has like 4 teams that they're rivals with, but over the last couple of years, Oregon and Stanford have been 2 best teams in Pac-12.
Yeah.
So I'm taking Stanford, but that'll be fun to see.
All right. So that's all we got for our games. That's all
Nebraska
we got.
Rutgers
Nebraska plays Rutgers, so go Nebraska. God, we better win that game.
out there.
There's no way we lose to Michigan State and lose to
Beat
Rutgers.
Michigan
Or beat
State.
Michigan State and lose to Rutgers. That would be the worst day ever. So let's go out and beat Rutgers, then beat Iowa. Got anything else, Jim?
We'll be back on Tuesday. We're gonna do it on Tuesday this week.
Mm-hmm.
Right after they come out at 6 o'clock with those.
We'll talk about the college football poll.
With the college football poll, and then maybe we can jump into a little bit, seeing where teams are ranked.
We might go a little more into some more matchups.
Yeah, that type of thing. But
All right.
good win last night.
Cool. Go Big Red. Anything else?
That's it. That's
All
all I
right.
got.
Thank you. All right. Party.
Let's party.